I think they don't care about the American people. They care about winning this war of power.
Yep.
Right? So even if Trump did something they agree with,
they'll never, ever, ever
they
get...
will never tell you. And this is my problem with both sides. When Trump does something, I don't care if you are in the MAGA cult. If he does something you don't agree with and you can't speak out, right? That makes you a slave.
Yep.
That makes you weak-minded.
Yes.
Right? I respect those that say, I voted for the guy, but I don't respect what he did with this.
Right.
And that's where you see the nuance of a person that can actually think. But beyond that, that's dangerous. You feel me? And it's weak-minded. So I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. If you can't point out good when it's good or bad when it's bad, that's not good for the people.
You're a cult member.
And when Donald Trump comes out there and say stuff like it's DEI and what you want me to do, swim in the water, and when he talk about meeting with the people.
Oh, when they're talking about going to the crash site.
What it really does is it makes people less empathetic. See, a good leader makes people more human. Right? You do those things not because you want to, not even for the logic of it. It's so that you exemplar humanity. Right. So we treat each other with that same respect and dignity and honor and empathy as well. And so this is what I'm seeing in leadership. I'm seeing a lack of that completely.
And it's been that way for years.
Pushing contempt and conflict amongst their bases, which is inciting more civil war.
Yeah, like the lack of, actually it's not even a lack. There was zero Palestinian representation at the DNC, which I believe was 4 days. And it was like you said, empathy, humanity. It's like, how is there
Well, all of the activists, they decided to be quiet during the campaign of Kamala Harris because they believed she was going to get in there and possibly do something, even though, her husband is Jewish. I don't see if she was going to do anything. She constantly said, I'm not changing nothing, no matter who's going to be president.
Nonstop.
What they did is, you can't be revolutionary in one moment. But now I'm political, right? Now I'm not going to say nothing. If you can't hold feet to the fire of the person, because the way you vote radically is that you put the person that you're more equipped to fight in office, right? And then once they get in office, you fight them, right, to keep their promise to you.
Right.
And people forget that relationship with politicians. So if you voted for Donald Trump, it doesn't mean you now bow down to him. You now have to fight him to keep his promises that you were aligned with when he ran. And that is regardless of what kind of leadership, whether it was Kamala or him, it would have been the same fight to keep that politician aligned with the things that you align with. Or the people have to have an or else.
Do you think there would have been I'll call it for face value ceasefire if Kamala would have won?
Nah, I don't even think she would have tried to really push for one. And I don't think people would have cared.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Trump is the person that tries to prove out his power and leadership, but then he makes deals behind the scenes. He talking about pushing them over to Egypt. Egypt not going to have the people.
That's the new shit. Right? Yeah, that's the new shit. And then we said today that
looking at that as a beachfront property that they can go clear out and take over.
And put Trump Tower. I mean, even today he said something about, or they said that if Netanyahu violates the ceasefire, there won't be tariffs on Israel because he's got to do what he's got to do. And to me, it's like, I mean, that just kind of...
That gives you no reason. That means there's not a real ceasefire.
It's not real.
There's no consequence.
Because if it was a real ceasefire, there'd be consequences on both sides.
That means there's a negotiation to go along, just making me seem like I got the power so that I can leverage this period of time, right, until y'all decide y'all want to fire back and take over, right? So I can show stability and control as a powerful leader. It's the same thing with TikTok. You can't download TikTok because it's still banned, right? But in lieu, you're going to do this negotiation and try to figure out which American company can get control. So what I need y'all to do is shut it down for a day and then thank me for negotiating.
Yeah, because when you open it, you get the alert that has his name.
Yeah, it's all strategy. He played it. He's a negotiator. He's a businessman. He know how to play the game.
He is a master manipulator of that.
Every politician is.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And I just try to understand is why does the average person think that billionaires, right, and these huge tech elites have their best interests at heart, when historically you never believed that. Ever. That's always been a fight. And if you were a so-called patriot of this country, your job would be to keep them aligned. Your job would be to keep them aligned with the so-called Constitution. Your job would be to keep the people in line with the threat of revolt. That if you all don't put this country first and put the freedoms of the people first, not to push division amongst the people. If you push division, you're a terrible leader. Full stop.
Right.
Right? Elon Musk goes on his platform every single day and push division.
Yeah, he does it in this dog whistle way where he'll reply to a tweet.
Yeah, but that's
very
a
true.
repost is you saying it.
Yes.
You can't hide behind somebody else repost. You say it. Because then to me, that's cowardly.
For sure.
Right? It's influence. If you're the richest man in the world, so-calledly, and you have one of the most powerful platforms in the world, just say it. But what it does is it's a whistle to a base of people, right, that do think like that 100%. You're telling them that, yeah, I'm with you. Germany, it's time for Europe to be great again. You know what I'm saying? America, it's time to be great again. South Africa, it's time to be great again. You talking to these people, what are you doing? You're igniting a national white base, right? To say that we have to rally together because it's about to be dangerous times to us. It is a signal around the world. If you can't obviously see that, right, you will see it very soon. It's going to be very hard for you to defend, right, the people that you defend now. It's going to be blatantly obvious. And the only thing that's going to stop him is fear.
Do you think that his salute was the Nazi salute on purpose? Do you think he cognitively did that on purpose?
Man, the one thing about me is I got excellent vision. You know, I can see with my eyes and my mind. I don't need nobody to interpret nothing for me.
Right.
I'll be a goddamn fool. You know what I'm saying? If you walk in the room, you see a girl kiss another dude, and she said, "No, I wasn't kissing him." You know how Birdman said he wasn't kissing Wayne, just respect. So we ain't just see that. I saw what I saw. The most dangerous thing is somebody tell you didn't see what you saw.
Right.
Right? And I think that you have to think about it from that standpoint. You saw it with clear evidence, right? But they have the ability to tell you what you see with your eyes, what you hear, what you sense is not real. So now you can't trust yourself. Now you have to wait for somebody else to interpret reality for you, right? And you're going to make excuse for everything. It's funny. I seen Andrew Schultz talking about this, and he was explaining how it would have been better if he would have just apologized for it, essentially, versus act like it didn't happen.
Right.
Right? And I seen other people say the same thing. And Elon has yet to do that.
Because Elon could just say, hey, this is what it was. I was in the moment. I have crazy hand gestures. Instead, he kind of like on Twitter, he'll retweet. Like he retweeted, I think Kamala did something at the fire aid thing that looked like it.
That's stupid. What they do is when something happens like that, they run a psychological program to put out certain words, like the word awkward. So then you will see every respondent and everybody that talks about it using the word, it was an awkward thing. Why is everybody using the same exact script?
Right.
Right? It's a psychological programming. So that now instead of you thinking of it as what you've seen, you say, oh, it was just awkward. He's just autistic.
Right.
All of a sudden, he's on the spectrum when it comes to these things.
But when it comes to being the richest man alive.
when if you can't stand on the stage and not do a Nazi salute because you autistic, that's a problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, I think that he's too intelligent to not be intentional with what he does. Right? If you have the biggest platform in the entire world, and another thing, the ADL, like, man, listen, we not even gonna trip on. This is the first time I ever seen the ADL apologize for somebody else.
The way they ran Kyrie through the mud.
Yeah.
And Cannon through the mud.
But why? Because they know that we're going to get more by going along, right? And acting like you didn't see what you saw. It's better for us to explain it away. That's part of the Hitler program. You just explain it away, right? So they have the best psychological programs when it comes to controlling and manipulating the people.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like you see like AIPAC, ADL, like guys like Stephen Miller, like it's like just ignoring, you know, what their core values should be
because it don't align with their agenda.
Right.
If they're going to get more by them having a president, and they got Elon who will be running point on a lot of the plans they got going on, then why would we attack him when we need him to stay this credible person in the media? Because he's going to do so much for Israel.
Right.
So it would make sense that they'd call their people and be like, yeah, let's.
Do you remember when he was critical of Israel and then like a week later went and
they had to have them conversations?
Yo,
he had to go visit.
Do you remember he went and did the visit?
And the lady, when he went to go visit, the lady said he was completely unempathetic. He didn't care. He wasn't paying attention. And he was just like, let's just get this business over with.
Yeah.
The thing is that
even recently, I want to say last week, he replied to something that was.
Listen, I know behind the scenes they don't get along, but he's an elite, right? People like Elon Musk and other elites like that. What drives them is power.
Right.
purely. It's power, nothing else. So you can't understand it when you try to look at it from any other standpoint. It's just power. If I can get more power and more power and more power, it's a drug. So at the end of the day, I don't care about human beings and casualties, right? I don't care about morality or nothing else. It's power. Mm-hmm. How can I get more power? And for him, he is in a perfect position to just wield that power however he wants to.
He's the richest man alive, and now he has governmental power. Like the Doge thing is a real thing.
Yeah, the Department of Government Efficiency is very interesting. But the way I look at things in the nuance, I'm like, first of all, the government is very inefficient. Right?
The bureaucracy is insane.
And then
our national debt's insane.
To the culture. I relate that to Black America. We need our own Department of Government Efficiency. We need to defund certain people that so-called represent us but never get any impact or change. And we need to divert those efforts, attention, and money to people that are impactful. And we'll see the world change, right, in the first 100 days.
Well, I think, we talked about it a little bit earlier. A lot of the people that you're probably thinking of got big houses.
Oh, yeah. They got big bills.
Been living real nicely off of the plight for years and years and years. And whether it's hanging out at a Costco.
Yeah. Bro, the Al Sharpton era is over. The civil rights era is over. And what I mean by that is that's no disrespect to those who laid real foundational efforts, right, to make progress, that had it really in their heart. But, and I believe that it's not just one or the other. Now we get to kind of look at the progress that our ancestors fought for. And we also get to think about what else our ancestors died for. Because we act like the voting is the only thing they died for.
Right.
Right? And no, they died for our economic power. Right? They died for our family power. They died for our pride within self. They died for our political power. Right? They died for multiple things, for us to know who we are. But we push the political voting power anytime we evoke our ancestors, and it's time for us to resurrect different ancestors now and move on them, because the Martin Luther King ain't gonna get us through this time. Right? Just think about if we evoke the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Marcus Garvey as the main ancestors, right, that we want to resurrect in our activities, we change the world overnight. There was a silent protest. I think it was 1917 or something like that. It was the first political protest in this country. And what they was doing is they was holding up signs. One of the signs was about, we got 100 million acres of land or something like that. 100,000 acres of land. I forgot how much it was, but it was like it's worth $100 million. And then they had this long list of all of the different careers and the amount of people that they had in each one. Right? From brick mason layers to nurses, right? And they went out there to protest because at the time there was an incident where there was some killings in East St. Louis, I believe. And the protest wasn't let's shout. The protest is like saying to this government, we've never participated in trying to assassinate a president. We were the first ones to shed blood for this country in the war, right? We've done our part and we've been doing our part, and we're not asking for nothing. But at the same time, it is the government job to provide opportunity for its citizens. But the message I seen was towards each other. We don't need to say nothing. Well, really, this is what we need to do. If we have 10,000 nurses, we got our own hospitals. If we have people that are in electrical and engineering and architecture and entrepreneur fields, we can build our own cities, right? We're not going to cry to them and say, save me. The message was, let's save ourselves.
Save yourself.
And if we responded like that each and every time, we would win, because it will forces us to become closer and closer and closer. And so the mindset that we need to have is a mindset of resilience. And there's no more resilient people than Black Americans. Never have ever been. Because the way that we respond to things, and resilience is the ability for to get bent out of shape and get back into it. Right? So we're always taken out of our nature. You might be made a slave and you get back to a warrior. You feel me? We might have to go through crack eras and go through the creation of ghettos in America and black codes, but then we always get back to it. Black men specifically are the biggest social activists and health advocates, right, in this country. We get back to it each and every time, but they try to paint it as if we just been failing and falling. No, we've been fighting and fighting and fighting, and we never stop fighting. That's resilience. We never stop producing brilliance. If it was no Elijah Muhammad, I wouldn't be here speaking to you today in the manner in which I do.
Right.
Each generation gets back to this resilience and saying, all right, let's get back focused and let's get back to this money. Let's get back to this power. Let's make our own music. Let's have our cultural revolution. Like, damn, if I went to Japan a few months ago, and it's the greatest place I ever visited. Japan is essentially culturally right where we want to be. They had a cultural revolution called Bushido, right? And the Bushido is the code of essentially shogun and the warrior class, the samurais, and their writings on how they lived to not only know the art of war, but the art of peace, right? And they learn how to live this balance. And if you read it, you go through this collection of these generals and warriors and the way they think about life, right? It talk about how this one warrior was he was stone cold killer, but then on his off time he was a gardener, right? He understood how to take life and how to nurture life, right? And in that he's seen this sense of balance of how to live. They give a breakdown of how to clean and why to clean. That when you cleaning during the day, it's also you cleaning your mind, and it allows you time to think. And then at night, you don't clean, you just put things in place because it represents your mind getting and gathering itself. And if you watch anime, all anime put Bushido lessons in there so that it keeps and preserves the culture. But during that time of them producing that Bushido for their people, they had to go through some economic stagnation because they had to sacrifice some capitalization for the ethics of it all,
right?
Some morality. And now today, when you go out there, and this is a good example, you know, if you ever been late to work and you worked a corporate job, right, and you can't find no parking if you late, because everybody done parked, of course, in the good spots. But in Japan, there are certain practices where people will park farther away the earlier they come. So just in case somebody woke up late, right, they have empathy for each other and understand it's not me versus you. This is a cohesive harmony of people living in existence, and this is ancestral practice. This is us. How do we coexist? Not how we compete with each other. So for me, we out of harmony with that, and we're going to continue to go through these crazy weather events. The Hopi people predicted it a long time ago that we were going to extract so much from the land, right, that essentially nature will fight back, right? These fires are going to continue to happen this year because fire is cleansing. Right? It needs to happen. It's going to have to happen because where we're going as a society is not sustainable. So the resilience in the mind of being in flow, and instead of thinking of ourselves as a machine, how we just work more, how we start to become regenerative to where that which we put in produces more. So it's not just extraction, right? For me, the whole thing is just getting back to indigenous ways, getting back to ancestral ways, but utilizing modern technology and resources to be way more efficient than they ever could during their time. How would you run a Malcolm X play during this time? How would you run Elijah Muhammad play during this time, right? How would you run Madam C.J. Walker play during this time, right? And I think the most dangerous prevalent mindset is that we're so much capitalists, but I don't think that's sustainable for us.
Right.
I think we feel too much to just be greedy capitalists. I was talking to my brother Keenan Beasley, he was talking about how if you go look at the average super elite rich person, they're not happy. There is a karma that comes with that of just getting over on people, just getting more and more and more and more. They can't even sleep. They don't get a good night's rest. I don't think that that's sustainable for people who feel a lot, and we feel a lot.
Right.
That's how we've been able to be taken advantage of historically, having too much emotional empathy for others. So we have to be able to be in harmony with the technology and have dominion over it, not it controlling us. Because another single greatest threat to mental health is goddamn doom scrolling. You feel me? Like,
no, the doom scrolling is real.
Man, you just find yourself down this hole of stimulation because that's what you're trying to do. So you can't focus because when you focus now, it's like, this is too boring. But boring is another word for peaceful.
Right.
So if you replace your vocabulary saying, man, this is too peaceful, you'll hear yourself and say, what the hell wrong with me? Why I can't sit still?
Right.
You feel me? Why can't I be in darkness for a minute and relax my mind? So therefore, you want to have low stimulation and do low stimulation activities so it decreases your baseline so you don't need these high, right, dopamine hits of constantly getting, scrolling, watching, what's my next comment, what's the next thing happening? Now you can't goddamn focus on nothing. Now you're not excited about nothing. Now you goddamn watching porn and you can't enjoy a real woman.
It's crazy.
You know what I'm talking about? The women hitting themselves with the roses. They don't care if you bring her a rose. I'm talking about the flowers. Right. They ain't stimulated by that. They need that electrical activity. Instead, man, you supposed to, that come from Oakland. We just say something potent to a woman and she'll live off that for a few days.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now she about to go watch Justin LeBoy quote and forget about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to get back to slowing down to speed up, right? And I think that it's not about unifying with everybody. I think it's about finding your tribes right now. Like people who agree with the same values, same moral systems. We got to learn how to communicate to ourselves in the world, right? Like part of the high level conversation book and things I'm putting together right now, I think the most thing that people ask me to teach them is how to communicate.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking about from celebrities to NBA players to leaders to other speakers. They want to know, how the hell do I communicate? So I started putting together this framework from a type 1 speaker to a type 5 and how to go from just being a memorizer of things to becoming an influential, passionate speaker. And men need to learn how to speak to women again. I ain't talking about the little fake riz y'all be doing, you feel me, with the little fake game, because if you can get a woman to fall in love with you by being yourself, that's sustainable.